welcome to yet another edition of Let's Talk on DNTWOK. My name is Olujoke, and the topic for today is the role of emotional intelligence in relationships. The relationships we'll be looking at, most importantly, is the love cycle kind of relationship. And I have a love tech in the house. His name is Anuoluwapo Longe. He's also a pastor. So he will be discussing this topic with us. He is the host of Love Cycle with Anuoluwapo, and that is a Christian relationship and marriage podcast. So permit me to say that we are in safe hands. All right, before we continue with the show, I'd like to remind you to please subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on all of our social media platforms, and enjoy this ride with us.
JK Royal Signatures, a blend of African fabric.
Thank you, Anu, for coming on the show. It's nice having you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's nice to be.
We've known each other way back, and it looks like seeing you is so surreal, right? Because it's been a long time. But also, thank you for coming, and belated happy birthday. Hope you had fun. Hope you enjoyed yourself. It's good to enter that level, you know. It's not like you're old, though. You just entered another level. So that you now start having it in your mind, okay, I'm now old. No, you're still very young. All right, so like I said, the role of emotional intelligence, how would you explain that?
When we talk about the role of emotional intelligence in relationships, is something that is very key, in relationship, because basically, let me try and in a layman's definition of what emotional intelligence is. It's about recognizing yourself, who you are, or your emotions. You recognize your emotions, then you understand your emotion. That there's a knowing, and then there's understanding, and then there's a managing your own emotion. And so isn't there's the second phase is you must also be able to recognize other people's emotion. That is probably the person you're in a relationship with. And then you must be able to understand, their emotions, and now be able to manage or influence, their emotions. So that is very, very key, in any relationship, for any relationship to work. So and when we talk about you understanding your we must recognize your emotion. What are those things that your emotions, the anger, time management, spending? You must be able to understand, what makes you sad, what makes you happy, and then you must also understand the fact that these are two people coming from two different backgrounds. You've been trained in this particular way for, I don't know how many years, 20, 15 years, 20, 30 years, 40 years. This other person too has been trained in a particular way for whatever age that you guys, met, and then you are in a relationship with each other. So you must understand that you are coming from two different backgrounds. And then so this person's emotions has been built up in a particular way, has been fashioned in a particular way. Yours has been, built up and fashioned in a particular way. So you must be able to recognize these emotions, for your own self. What are those things that make, for instance, let's talk about anger. What are those things that makes me, upset? then once you know that these are the things that, then you must understand, why I get upset with these things or by these things. And then you must now know, how do I manage this emotions so that I don't take it out on others. So I don't take it out on my spouse or my fiance or my husband or my wife to be. So that is very, very, very key. That's very, very, very important in a relationship. And I think that's one of the mistakes that most people make. You want somebody to be exactly the way you've seen in movies, or exactly the way you pictured it in your brain, in your memory, like, oh, she's just going to be like this. It's just going to be like this. Not recognize the fact that no. What you watch in the movie is just is just they just is acted, it's just a script. But this is reality. This person is coming from a different background. This is where, okay, for instance, I hear people say that, they have issues in marriage just because of what we call small thing, as little as pressing toothpaste at the tail end. Some people say, "Oh, why would you press the toothpaste at the tail end? You should, you don't press it at the middle. You press it at the tail end so that And these are different people. This one, in their family, you can press toothpaste anywhere. They don't really care. But the other person in their family, they know how to manage things. So you have to squeeze it from, to the very end. So you must understand that, where this person, the background of this other person, where this person is coming from, and then understand each other. So in what's called emotional intelligence in a relationship, first thing you need to look at is self-awareness. You must, is very, very key. Your self-awareness is key. And then self-recognition. You must recognize, okay, what are those things, those emotions, that people talk about or that I have that can affect this relationship in a way that is not positive. And then also, you must learn how to motivate, motivate yourself and then motivate the other party.
Okay. Now, what will the role, we just talked about the role. Now, the impact of communication when it comes to emotional intelligence, how does it impact communication and conflict
Ooh.
in the aspect of resolving that? Most usually communication is like the bedrock of any relationship. You need to be able to communicate. So now with this that we're discussing, and for all that you've mentioned, how does it impact communication and conflict in conflict resolution?
Okay. When we talk about, just like you've rightly said, communication is the bedrock of any relationship. You must be able to communicate. You must be able to, speak and, talk to yourselves. You must be able to share your values and, your aspirations, your ideas, your goals. You must be able to share this together. And, in emotional intelligence, communication is very key. And when we talk about communication, we have the verbal and the non-verbal. You must be able to understand each other, way or means of communication. For instance, if you have someone, if she's I just want to give like practical example. She looks at you like this. You must be able to tell that, okay, she looks at me like this. It means, stop, don't go there. That is a means of communication. But if you're not sensitive enough to that, she will look at you this way, and then and then in your mind, you are thinking, oh, she just look at me, she's smiling, she's blushing. And then that's what is your thinking. Because you are not able to deduct, or you're unable to understand that this does not mean blushing. This means don't even try it. So communication is very key. You must be able to understand each other's language, either verbal or non-verbal. And then also when we talk about communication, you must also, be able to, learn how to communicate yourselves in a way that, you don't hurt each other. And I'll give an example of that. For instance, maybe your fiance, your girlfriend, or your boyfriend, or does something, and then instead of you saying, shouting and saying, that's how you always do, you just always spoil things, you just, and then you're always not doing things good. Instead of you saying things like that, you can just say things like, oh, um, I noticed that you dropped this thing here like this, and I picked it the other time. I think that it would be better if you pack it up and then put it inside the case next time. That way, you're not yelling at the person. You're communicating in a way that makes the person feel, oh, that means I didn't pack it. Instead of you saying, oh, that's how you always do. You just always leave things there. Just always, that word, or you never say thank you. You never appreciate things. Instead of saying, oh, you never appreciate me, you never say thank you. And you can just say things like, well, I think, do you like this thing? I say, oh, yeah. I say, yeah, thank you. Thank you for thanking me for it. You are not really saying to the person, you never say thank you, but indirectly you're telling the person gets the message and says, oh, that's true. I didn't say thank you. And the person says, okay, thank you. For instance, there are people who naturally, probably from their upbringing, they don't they don't know how to say thank you. They don't know how to say please. You just need to find a way, to get them to say thank you or to get them to say please. So that's communication pattern, is very, very key. You don't just solve things, you don't just suck in and say, oh, that's how this person does. That's who she is, that's who he is. And then it makes you just feel that, that's how life is generally, that's how this person is. But that's how people, and then that's what makes people just think that, men are just like that. Women are just like that generally, because you don't communicate. And then when we talk about conflicts, management, in relationships. Instead of you, bringing out your anger or whatever it is, one thing that is very key, in conflict management, that I've noticed in conflict management is you learning to take a deep breath. It's very simple, but learning to take a deep breath. When things happen, somebody, and if you don't mind, I'd just like to share. I remember some time ago I was in a relationship, and one of the things that I really liked about that, time, for the person is that um anytime, we talk about the phone and then I get to, shout, do whatever, she just keeps calm and she just listens. And then after all the drama and everything, and probably the next day I call her and I'm like, oh, sorry about yesterday. She now comes out, like now gives it back. And by then I'm relaxed. So there's nothing I can do. So all I could just do is just to tell her, oh, I'm sorry. So that helps, to settle, conflicts.
Instead
We
of
really
giving
don't
it to each other at the same time.
giving to each other. And coincidentally, my birthday was last month. So she called me a day to my birthday, and then she was saying to me that, do you remember that, that I always, we always call each other a day to my birthday. And one of the things we usually do is that, we say that, I usually tell her that on my birthday we always fight, for one reason or the other. So, so what we do is a day to my birthday, we will settle all our quarrel. We'll settle everything, we will make peace so that that day we just don't fight. So that's just, that is for us, we are able to, understand that, okay, this thing happens and how do we resolve it? Without us, having to go into any form of a quarrel or any form of fight. So that understanding is very, very key. And then being able to, learn how to manage those things. And when conflict arises, definitely conflict will arise. One of the things that I say to people is, one, take a deep breath. If you can walk away, please just walk away at that time.
But
By
sometimes
the time
walking away could also cause trouble. So
yeah,
how do you do that?
Walking away could also cause trouble, and then so you must start that understanding is very important. You must know who you are, um, your partner very well. Some people walking away could cause trouble. Some people even silence could cause trouble. You say, "Oh, I'm talking," and then you're not talking back. How would how would you? So you must learn your partner. So in a situation where like that, you say, "Okay, I'm talking," and then you are quiet. What would you do at that time? And I think that's when that deep breath just comes to play. You just because you know that if you talk at that time, you are just going to spoil things. So what you do at that time is just take that deep breath, take it in and out, and then relax. That way you are calmer, and then you're able to process your next response to the person. So that way it helps you, in conflict management. You don't get arguments all the time. So to me, that's basically how you resolve conflicts in relationships.
Okay. Now let's go to the aspect of how it helps individuals manage stress, anxiety, pressure, and other form of emotions that comes along. You know that a woman part when a woman is in a period, there's a kind of hormonal struggles, and I don't know about men. Maybe there's also when men are in their periods. But all the same, can you just let's talk about this?
Okay, thank you about that. For that's one of the things that comes with understanding, and I think for the women, one of the things that just like you rightly said, brings the anxiety and all those things is probably when they are having their period session, period. And for men, I tell you, one of the things that bring anxiety is money. When the man doesn't have money, pressure. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, he just is anxious. He just wants to, explode. So I think that's we have different things that puts us under pressure. So we should be able to understand this. We should be able to understand this and then understand how your spouse feel at every point in time. The person comes home and then is looking moody or she's looking moody. Instead of you just come and then sorry to say this. I mean, some women instead of you coming and say, oh, asking how this day went, you just want to pour out your own pressure of the day on this other person. I say, oh, this person did this person did that. We don't have light. There's not, that's brings arouses the anxiety or the pressure from whatever that the person is bringing in. So instead of doing that, what you should rather do is study each other, study this person's feelings, know what this person is feeling, is going through at this point in time.